One small but noteworthy addition to 3D Coat as of build 4.7.36 is the addition of cartoon shaders in the Sculpt workspace. If you go to the Shaders panel, you'll notice that you have the option to utilize cartoon shaders, and you can always adjust the color as you need. Let me go ahead and quickly demonstrate by choosing the first one. I'm going to right click over the shader and I'll choose Apply to Visible. That'll apply it to everything. And I'll continue doing that to the others. Okay, and so these can be useful in different situations, especially when you are using these for concept art. So let's go back to the first one. And let's say we want to add a little bit of color to it. We can right click and choose Edit Permanent Shader Settings. Or if we want to just modify it for usage of a specific part. In other words, I may want to use one for one area and then make some slight adjustments and apply the very same shader to another part that may be smaller in scale and so on. Let's again right click, Edit Permanent Shader Settings, or we can construct a new one based on this shader. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's right click and choose Construct New Shader. We can give it a name. Let's just Toon Test. And let's say I want to add some green. Let's click on this color modulation and choose kind of a neon green. I can move my palette out of the way, and it applies this green tint to it. Now what I'm seeing here is the bulge color. You can uncheck Use Cavity and you will not see that. But let me just go ahead and click OK. Now the cavity color, if I want to use cavity, I can click on that. Now the bulge color, I would probably want to make it a little bit brighter than this, so let's make this one more of a medium green. And this will be our neon. It's probably a good idea to be only slightly brighter than this overall tint, because if it's too contrasty, it may not look proper. So yeah, let's bring it down just a bit more. There we go. Okay. And we can adjust our bulge intensity here, so it's much more flat. And same thing with our cavity. All right, and we can uncheck that. You can check flat shading. It adds a little bit of a different effect, but in many cases it's not much. So I'll uncheck it. And if I'm happy with it, I can hit OK. Now I have a completely new shader created, and you can continue building this way. You can try some of these others and apply a color tint to those as well. But let me step into Photoshop and I can show what will drive this particular effect. You can use maybe a gradient such as this, or maybe a gradient spherical shape. If you change these around to where the highlight is toward the top, you'll notice a stark difference than if it's toward the center. So let me go ahead and change that up now just to show what I'm talking about. Let's edit permanent shader settings. And we'll choose the texture. We get a warning stating that it's basically going to overwrite the current one. I'll hit OK. So I have a couple different ones here that I can turn to. Let's try this one. Quite a bit different. And basically the highlight is facing the camera more so than being oriented toward the top or oriented toward the light. So let's change that again. Okay. And yeah, let's try this one. You can see how it's reduced in the number of colors because I only used about 3 different colors here, whereas the others were about 4 or 5 different gradients. So let's again change it up here. I'll add some of these Photoshop files that you can use as a starting point or just use to experiment with on your own. You'll find the link in the comment section. Yeah, let's change it to something like that. Okay. You can see it's much more subtle because there is some blurring So let's construct a new shader. And this time, let's try an orange. We could use cavity. I'll hit OK. Now let me tweak this one a bit. Edit permanent shader settings. And let's choose a texture. We choose this one. So you can see you have a number of different colors compared to the other. I'll change that back up. So let's try something like that. And again, if I hit OK, it should update. Refresh this preview. Just completely turn that off. Let's select this one. We'll try a different color. All right, so I'll select the mask. We'll make that orange as well. Yeah. And then the face. There we go. All right, so there's our new cartoon character. We can take him into the render room. Turn on real-time render. I'll turn that off. And let's add a light. We can bring it up a bit. Okay. Now turn on real-time rendering. When you render it out, you can choose to store an alpha channel so it knocks out the background, or you can uncheck that and it will render the background along with it. You can also go to your camera settings here. You can use a background image. And with that, we will conclude this look at the new Toon Shaders in 3D Code. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.